but not exclusively require religious services to be performed by a uniformed chaplain. Mikey Weinstein, president of the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, put out a joint release with Ron Cruz, the executive director of the Chaplain Alliance for Religious Liberty, saying that the Navy went too far in denying sailors access to chantry services. Cruz now has learned that the Navy has reversed itself and reinstated all the minority religious services.
The Navy did the right thing. I fully suspected that they would. They're making sure that even the minority groups, some Christian, some non-Christian, practice their faith or non-faith, whatever it is.
Cruz says his organization is concerned about religious liberty for all members of the military.
Because if some don't have it, then we're concerned about others not having it. And so that's why we took a stand, even with Mr. Weinstein on that situation. Probably the one and only case we'll ever be in agreement with, but we were in agreement on that one.
I'm Chad Groening.
A nonprofit organization that specializes in emergency medical intervention has been able to serve communities in Nepal that have so far received no help following the two devastating earthquakes.
Hope Force International has a team on the ground in Nepal that is serving remote areas of the country. Co-founder and president Jack Minton says travel is lengthy to many communities.
I mean, they're difficult to get to in the best of times, but you can appreciate after the first earthquake and now the second, it's just complicated things all the more.
The team was there when the second quake hit, so they're taking precautions.
They're sleeping in tents rather than sleeping in the building just because of the unstable nature of things.
Minton says it's been very stressful for the medical team because of all the suffering they've witnessed.
The way we describe it is it's a terrible privilege. You hate to see these things happen, but they will. And so for us, it's a privilege to have had the opportunity to prepare in advance so that when these things happen, we can engage in providing care and support.
Because of the need, Hope Force International is deploying a second team to Nepal. I'm Bill Bumpus.
The Dow is down slightly, now at 18,290. American Family News is online and on the One News Now mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
I pledge allegiance to the King of Kings and to his kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. One holy nation, under our Heavenly Father, grace, mercy, justice for all.
Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Center.com, MediaBroadcastingCenter.com, picking up this show, and I want to thank Kevin so very much for putting this all together. That's in MediaBroadcastingCenter.com. So, we also need your help, folks. Simple as that. Need your help. Keep the lights on, the phones going, the squirrel fed out there running in the cage and the transmitter so this signal goes out to you. You can do that in several ways. You can call Michael at 800-205-6245, 800-205-6245. You can make a pledge on your plastic. You can order a copy of today's show or past shows we've done, other shows here on the network. That helps us out. You can pick up that envelope and address it to KHNC, P.O. Box 1750, P.O. Box 1750, Johnstown, Colorado, Federal Occupation Zone 80534. Your check, your money order, much appreciated. We'll even still take the fraudulent reserve notes. Other currencies, sure. Chinese yuan, we'll take those. That's what you'll be spending here soon, if you can even get them. Well, You could throw in some just weights and measures, the Lord's money. At the very least, tell your friends and family, tune in 1360 a.m. on the internet at America News Net, AmericaNewsNet.com, and call the advertisers, folks. It only takes a second to jot their number down and give them a call and just say, hey, thank you for supporting American Freedom Network. Pat Osborne, he's waiting to hear from you. GreatPlainsSolar.com is the website. Company name is Great Plains Power. He can set you up with a backup power supply system to, a whole house system, and you can tell the electric company to come get their stinking smart meter. GreatPlainsSolar.com. Give Pat a call, 303-239-9963. 303-239-9963. My guest today, attorney, a watchman on the wall, a crusader to try and, awaken the people, and, just all around good God. My good friend, Larry Becraft. Larry, welcome.
Andy, how you doing this afternoon? You have a great introduction.
Really?
Yes, I like it. It wakes people up.
I don't know. I don't know.
I hope we can wake up some people during the course of this program.
Yes, we want to wake people up. We want them to realize that there's an emergency out there, whether they know it or not. The flames are crawling up their pant leg, and pretty soon their hair will be on fire, and they need to run screaming down the street. All right, I'm going to start this out. Here's a question for you. I'm on your website here, Becraft, the Dixieland Law Journal. Just go to a search engine and type in Becraft Briefs. And in a special report...
The issue?
Say again?
Do you want to talk about the money issue?
Well, no, the question I'm going to throw out there to you is, what are the people to do when, quote, the law, unquote, becomes lawless? You've got a special report here called Harmful Error, investigating America's legal or local prosecutors.
Well, there's just a lot of situations. There are a lot of people in America that go into court representing themselves pro se. There's a lot of people that go into America with a lawyer to defend themselves or to prosecute a claim. And for people to think that the system is rendering justice, that courts are not acting politically, that's you can't conclude that, because you encounter too many times in life, if you're in the courts, you encounter too many times in which that is not the case. Judges are human beings. They can be wrong. If they're wrong, you got to go up on appeal. But then also judges are a part of a political system. This political system that we have here in this country, just like, back in 1787, the Constitution was proposed by Congress. It gets ratified in 1789. Then we have Congress comes along, and they create the courts. And the courts go into operation in this country in the 1790s. Well, one of the first things that Congress passed, about the 1795, 1796, they passed the Alien and Sedition Acts. And that was a law that made it criminal to criticize people in government. And it was enforced. It was unjust. But, that's just an example of the beginning of, in many instances, you can show in American history where things have been done that were completely unjust. And, the legal system today, you would like to think it would be a system that was fair and rendered justice. But, that's the ideal to which we're striving. There's still a lot of injustice, and there's still a lot of decisions that are made by courts that are political. And the money issue is one of them. The money issue has been decided by the courts, in my view, contrary to what the Constitution requires. And the reason we have this system here is because the courts have protected these powerful interests known as the friends of paper money.
Well, But also, couldn't we, I read that we've lived under emergency rule our whole lives. And part of the deal is, well, we're in an emergency, so we got to have all this paper money because, well, if we end the emergency, we'll have to go back to some real money.
Well, I don't think that the money issue is directly tied and can be justified because of the existence of emergencies. Let me tell you what has happened, to give you a short history of...
And we're on our first break. Stay with us, Larry. We'll be right back here on the American Freedom Network.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
And we're back. My guest today, Larry Becraft. You just go to a search engine and type in Becraft Briefs. Becraft Briefs. That'll take you to the Dixieland Law Journal. A wealth of information there. You can also catch Larry on Saturdays on the Micro Effect. At the top of the page there is a link to his radio show on Saturday afternoons. So check it out. Larry's out there trying to, awaken the people also to overcome a lot of the, patriot mythology that has permeated the movement out there. Most of those folks, haven't a clue, and I've been there and done that, and know, but still, comes back to when the law is lawless, that, we've got prosecutors out there, and the courts have said, yes, you can lie, police, you can lie, prosecutors, you can lie your teeth out to an accused sitting there to, get them to tell you whatever they want you to tell, That's not the way it's supposed to work, Larry.
That is true, but let's discuss this problem. Anybody that has a head on his shoulders can observe what is happening here in America and reach the conclusion that there is something that's wrong. Now, there's a lot of people, they have that feeling, but they can't put their finger on, well, what is the cause? What is really going on? Now, a lot of these problems that we're, suspect exist or we know exist, they come in a variety of forms. There's legal problems, and then there's political problems, and there's moral and spiritual problems. You have to examine each one on its own and determine, what category it falls in. And I want to address just those types of problems that fall into the category of legal problems. Now, you can't say that everything that is going on in American society is completely lawless. For example, and this is a guy that you need to have on your radio show, Richard Mack. Richard was, just a sheriff in Arizona back at the time that the Brady Law went into effect. And he decided, well, gee, I'm going to challenge the constitutionality of this Brady Law that affected, it was a law that was going to require, a federal law that was going to require state officials, like a sheriff, to do certain things prescribed by federal law. So he took them to court. He, when he filed the lawsuit, he had some people that were assisting him, like Gun Owners of America and NRA. They went to court and challenged it, and the district court judge found the law was unconstitutional. Then the administration appealed that to the Ninth Circuit, and then the Ninth Circuit reversed that. Said, oh, no, the Brady Law is constitutional. Well, at the same time, over in the Fifth Circuit had come along and held that, the Brady Law is unconstitutional. So you had, at that stage, you had two conflicting federal appeal courts, one holding the Ninth Circuit saying the Brady Law was constitutional, and the Fifth Circuit saying it's unconstitutional. Well, then that's the ripe grounds for going to the United States Supreme Court, and that's exactly what Richard did. He took the case to the United States Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court came out and said, protected states' rights, and said that law was unconstitutional because the federal government can't sit there and, require a state official to do anything. We got aspects of that, we're confronting today with Obamacare. So I consider the Prince and Mack decision of the Supreme Court back in about 1997. That's a victory. Now, if you'd asked me back at the early part of the turn of this century whether I would ever think that the Supreme Court of the United States would come along and uphold Second Amendment rights, I would have said, hey, that's an extremely remote possibility. But then again, to take a look at Dick Heller. Dick Heller came along and he challenged the constitutionality of the D.C. gun ban, and he went up to the United States Supreme Court. And in 2008, the United States Supreme Court comes out and, said, hey, look, the D.C. gun ban is unconstitutional and violates the Second Amendment. And following quickly on that, and my memory of all this is that probably the ink was not dried on the Heller decision when there was a lawsuit filed in Chicago, McDonald against Chicago, challenging the Chicago gun ban. And that, too, that case went also to the United States Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court came along and said, hey, the Second Amendment applies to the states. So we have had good victories in the courts. But that's not to say that everything that's coming from the courts is rosy. We've got going on right now the argument about whether or not same-sex marriages can be penalized, can be proscribed by the states. Now, that's an issue that is going before the United States Supreme Court. Well, let me tell you how that case got developed. Back in about 2003, the Massachusetts Supreme Court comes along and declares that Massachusetts' ban on same-sex marriage was unconstitutional. Well, that started the ball rolling for the, sodomites and the queers in this country. It started rolling, creating a line of decisions where the courts have come along, state and federal, and held that state bans on same-sex marriage are unconstitutional. Well, here within the last couple of years, that issue went up to the Sixth Circuit. Now, the Sixth Circuit, federal appellate court, sits in Cincinnati, It's got Michigan, Ohio, Tennessee, are the states that are encompassed within the Sixth Circuit. And it took cases from those states and rendered a beautiful decision. And you sit down and you read the decision of the Supreme Court, of the Sixth Circuit, that is up on appeal to the Supreme Court right now. When you read that decision, Randy, you'll say, hey, man, this is exactly the way I think. This, it is states' rights. A state can condemn same-sex marriage. A state can declare that a marriage is between a husband and wife. Well, now you've got this split in authority, and that case is up to the United States Supreme Court. And we had oral arguments about a month ago before the United States Supreme Court, and some people are commenting right now, since Ruth Bader Ginsburg here, this is a rumor I've heard, I haven't seen anything in print, but somebody has told me that she presided over a same-sex marriage in Washington, D.C. here recently.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's an indication the Supreme Court's going to say a state can't pass a ban on same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriages are perfectly constitutional. Maybe that's going to be the decision, maybe not. If you sit down and you take a look at, and this is what I'd like people that are interested in issues of this type, when an issue like this comes up, get out on the Internet, start looking around, and, there are blogs for important cases like this, and there's a blog regarding this same-sex marriage case where you can read, all of the briefs, all of the Macy Curiel briefs that have been filed, and there's a lot of good ones. Our governor, Robert Bentley, my personal opinion is that Robert Bentley's brief to the United States Supreme Court in the same-sex marriage case, that is a beautiful brief, and I agree with it 100%. He comes out and says same-sex marriages can be condemned by a state. But then again, we've got our Attorney General submitted a brief in that. Well, that's the second best brief in that case. But, it's not difficult for people to, in reference to looking into legal matters regarding, what we're complaining about today, to educate yourself. And since we've got the Internet has grown over the last 15 years, so much legal material is now available on the Internet, I encourage people to, when you're looking into a matter like this same-sex marriage case or even like the Second Amendment cases, look and see. See how the courts are approaching this. But, I would say that today we've got kind of a, our view about the proper role and function of the federal government isn't being upheld. Well, I would suggest that one of the reasons why is because the people that are concerned about all these issues are, not being politically active. They're not showing the system, hey, look, we've got some strength, and you better listen to what we have to say.
Well, we need to be filing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit.
Well, I wouldn't say lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, but I do think that people need to be educated about these things. We've got to increase the level of understanding to something more than what it is right now regarding legal matters. It's not all that difficult. If we can eliminate the patriot myths out there that mislead people, and people really focused in on what we're concerned about, we could be further down the road.
Yeah. Now, this whole same-sex deal, it all hinges, the whole case hinges on the 14th Amendment, doesn't it?
So true.
And how many other cases have we seen, especially since 48, Brown versus Board of Education, Roe versus Wade, case after case after case after case of going, how could they do that? How could they do that? How could they rule that way? All hinging on the 14th Amendment, isn't it?
Yeah, but okay, let's go back to Roe versus Wade. I wouldn't say that really turns upon the 14th Amendment. What it turns on really more is legal history and a judge that wrote that opinion that's just coming along and inventing stuff out of whole cloth. How in the world can you say? We have now today neutralized an unborn baby. We don't call them an unborn baby. We don't call them a baby in the womb. We call it something that's, not as dear and sweet. We call it a fetus. And so we depersonalize it. To come along and say that legal history does not recognize in any way, shape, manner, or form a baby in the womb as being a person. That's, but that's what happened in the Roe versus Wade cases.
Okay, before I run out of time, Roe versus Wade. The law in Texas that they were fighting, the state law, penalized the doctor. Said, "You do that, you're going to prison. You're losing your license, and fine you and everything else." But there were two parties to the deal. Two parties. The doctor and the mother. Now, if both parties were charged under the law, we write a new state law that says, okay, the doctor, you're going off to prison, and mother, you're going off to prison because you both committed murder.
Yeah, an abortion.
Would that pass constitutional muster?
Historically, all the way back, it's been a crime for hundreds of years for somebody to engage in an abortion.
For thousands of years.
Yeah. It's murder. And what we have with Roe versus Wade is nothing more than an activist judge wanting to come along and, you got to admit, how many babies have been aborted ever since that decision? Is it 50 million, 55 million? That's a huge number.
If we look, because we've exported it throughout the world, okay, if we look at that, we're probably closer to 100 million.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Well, hey, I would suspect in China there might be more than 100 million abortions that just there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But but to sit there and say, the United States Supreme Court is rendering opinions that are not politically motivated, that is just a completely erroneous perception. Too many decisions are politically motivated. Roe versus Wade is one of those. And what I expect in the same-sex marriage, we're going to probably have the same thing.
Yes. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Question, comment, phone lines are open.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the left behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host, Melody Cedarstrom, right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, 1-800-375-4188. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
And we're back. Randy Yarbrough with you. My guest, Larry Becraft. You can find his website. Just go to a search engine, start page his work, and put in Becraft Briefs. Becraft Briefs. And that'll take you to the Dixieland Law Journal. There's a wealth of information there that would take you weeks and months to go through and read it all. Oh, you've been busy. You've been busy. His radio show Saturday afternoons. What time is that Central?
Starts is 2 to 4 Central Time.
2 to 4 Central. That'd be 1 to 3 Mountain.
That's right.
And
so, Randy, what are we going to talk about for the rest of the program? Are we going to stay on
talk about the rest of the program? Well, let's go into the lawlessness around us. I mean, we've got Jade Helm that the military says, oh, we need to do these exercises, and we need to do them out here in the rural country, and we need to be able to see if our computer programs and all these things are going to work between the guys in the field and the generals at the headquarters, and while we're at it, we'll practice seeking out and rounding up dissidents because Congress passed the NDAA and said, well, we can pick you up, haul you in, and no due process, no habeas corpus, no trial, no jury, no lawyer. We'll just hang on to you till you die. Or we kill you.
Well, I have a problem with that argument.
Really?
Yeah. And
well,
hey, Randy, a lot of times I see stuff pop up here in the freedom movement. And, somebody comes out with a, position that's, an assertion of a legal point. And, it's wrong. It's kind of like, scratching your finger over a blackboard. That screech just sends a chill up my spine. Now, here's what I would like to say. And I'm not criticizing anybody that, believes in the NDA argument. I'm just simply offering what I think is a perfectly valid position to, in the event that these things come to pass that you're talking about, with the NDAA, like indefinite intention, let me offer what I would consider to be a defense against that. The NDAA is nothing more than a congressional authorization. If you go over to the Truth Attack Law Library, or if you go over to John Rowland's website, Constitution.org, years ago I provided to John and all of the United States statutes at large. It's word searchable format, so he posted them on his website. And in the Truth Attack Law Library, I've got the links over to my work that John posted on his website, which is the entire United States statutes at large. You can download each volume. You can do word searches. Well, what you will find is that, for the last 100 years, appropriations acts are not published in the Federal Register. An Appropriations Act is just simply, that which authorizes functions of the government. And there's a body of case law out there that says that congressional authorizations for an agency, the things that would be authorized in them are not, quote, law that is generally applicable to the public. So there's this, not a whole bunch of cases, but there are cases out there that say that, the law didn't arise from a Congressional Appropriations Act. So to sit there and say, and to conclude that, the NDAA could be applied to me, I deny that. And I also deny, and Edwin Vieira has written a whole book on this, and other things that floats around in our circles is, everybody's talking about, well, Jade Helm is going to be, result in the, or later than Jade Helm, something that happens later. The federal government wants to establish martial law. Well, maybe that's what they're trying to accomplish. But, as Edwin Vieira so eloquently put together in one of his latest books, his complete argument spanning some 2,000 pages is that, this is Sword and Sovereignty is his book, that there is no government here in the United States that has any constitutional authority to establish martial law. So the predicates of what we believe, like martial law, it's coming, it's going to be established. When it gets here, there's nothing you can do. That's wrong. I deny that the federal government has the constitutional authority to establish martial law in this country. That is what we need to be talking about, rather than sitting there and conceding the point that, there's going to be martial law, and we're not even thinking about challenging the validity of it.
Well, but they are. It's already been done 150 years ago, Larry. And they challenged it, and let's see. Oh, Lincoln jailed all of the state house and senate in Maryland.
Well, you're talking about ex parte McCardle.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, in that case, see, that's one of the things people need to know something about. What are the limits of martial law? Martial law, it would exist, according to the Supreme Court in that case I just mentioned, ex parte McCardle. Martial law could only exist when the courts in this country are closed. It's only the law in the actual field of operations where there is no law, in essence, that's the vacuum that martial law can fill. When there is absolutely no law. Well, if the courts are open, so says the Supreme Court, then martial law cannot be applied. So if we have some big emergency in this country, for a place where martial law could apply, there'd have to be two or more combatants on a field, engaged in war, in which condition there would be no law that could be applied. That would be the only place that martial law could have any application. It's the law that arises in the absence of any other law. But if those conditions are not prevalent, then martial law cannot be applied. And that's just a short, sweet, and simple recitation of what the Supreme Court has held regarding martial law.
Okay. So, we...
So Randy, if we have Jade Helm come along and, they bring out big guns and they start rounding up people, well, even under that scenario, when they're rounding up people, hey, the courts in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico and California, where this is going to be happening, hey, there's going to be a docket call on that Monday morning in some municipal court in Los Angeles, or in Phoenix, or in Austin. So the courts will be open. So how in the world could martial law be applicable? The federal courts will be open.
The courts will be open. Yeah. Well, they're all going to go on vacation. Good. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Square Root Construction is pleased to help support the American Freedom.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights media channel. You've noticed that there are few commercials on this radio network, and there's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on satellite, internet, or our various affiliates. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs on our listen and schedule pages. Then when you subscribe, we'll send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately and continue with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We ask you to give much less than a tithe so that you may also send support directly to a particular program, host, or cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
Guest today, question, comment for him, 877-254-7524. Phone lines are open. You can catch Larry on the Micro Effect Saturdays, 1 to 3 Mountain. Just go to your search engine and type in Becraft Briefs. Becraft Briefs. That'll take you to the Dixieland Law Journal. Top of the page is the link to Micro Effect. Catch him on the radio there, talking about, when the law becomes lawless. Yes. So, okay, here we are. 150 years ago, Larry. Peace is declared. The Civil War's over. Andrew Johnson says, the states are readmitted into the Union. All those states in rebellion, and even to the point of having the status of the states being able to amend the Constitution, putting in place the current 13th Amendment.
And the 14th.
And then the 14th Amendment comes up, and the southern states says, wait a minute. So we have Congress saying, tell you what, we're going to dissolve all of the state legislatures and put our own people in there, and you're going to pass the 14th Amendment at the barrel of a gun because now we've declared martial law in the southern states, Reconstruction Acts, so on and so forth. I mean, that was martial law. If you read the Lieber Code, okay, he's basically saying, you can have martial law even if troops aren't on the streets.
Yeah, but a lot of people come along. Number one, the Lieber Code isn't in effect today. The Lieber Code was just, there are men in the military that are theoreticians that write, treatises regarding what is happening during wartime. The Lieber Code was just a set of rules that was the rules for the government of the conduct of war by the Union forces. But the Lieber Code was never, quote, law enacted by Congress, and it's no longer in effect. And in fact, you've had since that time, something similar to the Lieber Code has been, embellished and improved upon, and there's similar position papers, so to speak, of military authorities in our country regarding, what to do when war is being waged. However, when war is being waged, number one, Randy, I deny the power of the federal government to come along and engage in war against any state. There's just simply no constitutional authority for that. That's the reason why my preference for what happened back during the Civil War era, it was a war between the states, which is what it really was. That's the real legal name to be applied to it, but you could classify that in historical terms as being a civil war, but legally it was a war between the states. You had to go out into Brandy, I don't know if you were ever a Boy Scout, but I was a Boy Scout. I can remember making a whole bunch of trips to all the battlefields all across here in the South, and you have the Army of Ohio and the Army of Michigan pitted against the Army of Mississippi, the Army of Georgia, the Army of Alabama. The armies that were being fielded were armies of the states, even though the feds were providing financial support for them.
Yeah, okay. I'll agree. It's still the war of northern aggression.
Hey, that's what we call it down here in the South, the war of northern aggression. That is true.
Yes. So,
but the point I want to make, we've got a lot of issues that are confronting the American people, a lot of legal issues that are confronting the people in the freedom movement. And, we have a lot of erroneous ideas out there, and, by getting into a particular idea to see the legal support for the idea, you might find that you've got an erroneous idea, or you might find that you're overlooking a way to attack what you fear. It's just kind of like this, the NDA advocates, the thinking that, that act passed by Congress, which was nothing more than an authorization bill, that which is contained in an authorization bill is somehow, some way law, when it isn't.
Well, but how does Congress then, in appropriation bills, that, we're going to sneak in this little deal here on gun control. We're going to sneak this little deal.
Well, the best you can say for it is that there are funds that would authorize those types of activities. But insofar as that act having an applicability to the populace at large, no.
Interesting.
Yes. And I think we need to be telling people about that rather than going around and fearing, the NDAA. We need to be responding to the government. Hey, man, you federalists think you can do that. Here's our argument against it. You don't have the authority.
Yes.
Speak truth to power.
Well, that's one of the things we mentioned here is in this, what would you want to term it? The resistance?
Yeah. The deserved American resistance.
The resistance to an overarching, out-of-control federal government, and that goes on to the states and the localities, your dog doesn't have a metal tag on it, so we're going to fine you $5,000 and take your house, and your grass is too long, and so we're going to cut your lawn and put a lien against your house. Yes.
Well, let me look. Now that you brought that up, let's discuss something that's near and dear to my heart, which is the limits of the police power. And just this week, I received, I don't know who the guy was, but I got an email from somebody talking about how he was being proceeded against because he had junk in his yard, and maybe his house was unsightly, and, his position was, I have the right to keep anything I want on my property. Well, hey, let's talk about this when we come back.
when we come back. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Howdy, folks. Have you ever thought about...
I pledge allegiance to the King of Kings, and to his kingdom come, on earth as it is in heaven. One holy nation, under Heavenly Father, grace, mercy, justice for all.
Have you read the last prophecy? The book of Revelation. Who can understand it? We believe that God wrote his word to us for our understanding and salvation, on which so many diverse Christians believe in the same fundamental principles. But not so the prophecy of Daniel and Revelation. Has God, by his Holy Spirit, given a sure interpretation to these mysterious passages through the centuries? Yes, he has. The only difference to the individual is on which side of each prophecy he stands in time, before or after, past or future. The last prophecy is as much a book of history, fulfilling prophecy, exposed in such a way as to leave you without a doubt. Because we are living near the end of this era, we should be able to understand the substantial amount of the revelation which has already come to pass. Get the book, The Last Prophecy, which is an abridgment of E.B. Elliott's Jorge Apocalypticae, the most comprehensive work ever done on the Revelation, condensed down to a mere 258 pages. You will come away with numerous, incontrovertible revelations into the book of Revelation to easily dispel all of the futurist confusion which has become so popular over the last century. Visit the shopping page at FirstAmendmentRadio.com to get your copy. Get 20% off when you buy it at the FirstAmendmentRadio.com shop.
You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com worldwide. Freedom is never free. We need your support today at FirstAmendmentRadio.com.
And other links there to information you need. Talking about, well, limits on the police power, Larry. I mean, they've got the red lights, they've got the black uniforms, they've got the guns. Let's see, police power. Oh, bow down.
Well, let me explain it to you. Okay. The state cases on the point, there's a large number of them. And a lot of people will come along, and this is what I want the movement to understand, that there's a field of law out there that I think could be useful for a lot of people. You encounter in everyday life, you hear about all these wild and crazy laws that supposedly exist. Everybody's complaining about, overarching laws. People talking about, there's no victim here. If there's no victim, there's no crime. Well, what these people are talking about, they haven't been introduced to. What they really mean, if they dig into the topic, is, there's a field of law dealing with the police power. And generally, the police power is possessed by the states. Yes. The states didn't surrender this police power to the federal government by the United States Constitution. And then there's a line of cases from the United States Supreme Court on down that say, there was no delegation of the police power to the federal government by the United States Constitution. So the federal government doesn't have a police power. But the police power is generally described...
Well, yes, they do. They have police power in a 10-square-mile area.
Yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah, I ignored that. You're absolutely right. And in the possessions, too.
Yes.
D.C. and in the possessions. And the territories, but we no longer have any territories. But there they do have the police power. But inside of the American Union, the federal government has no police power. Now, what is the police power? Well, the police power generally, this is a kind of a rule that you'll find being expressed by state Supreme Courts, They say, well, the police power is that which protects the health, safety, and welfare of the people. Well, there's just a whole lot of things that don't do that. And if you sit down and catalog the wealth of cases where the courts here in America have come along and said certain acts are unconstitutional because they're beyond the police power of the state, then if you were familiar with those cases, then you could make an argument when, if you're in state court and you're being adversely proceeded against by some state agency for such a matter as, the dirty front yard or the grass is too high or something like that, then you can make the argument that there's no harm here. Grass is a natural substance. I can grow it to any height that I want. And you would make the argument, well, that municipal ordinance, that state law, is unconstitutional because it's beyond the scope of the police power. Now, if people would like to have a little bit better understanding of this issue, if they get over on my website, I think that there's a link on that page. I'm not looking right now, and I'm just going from memory. If they're on my page and just do a search for limits, I think the link that I have is related to the word limits. Click on that, and I have links to short summaries of cases and links to Supreme Court and state cases that describe the limits of the police power.
Yeah, interesting. We're on our top of the hour news break. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be back after the news. Question, comment, 877-254-7524. Phone lines are open.
Now you can reach the American Freedom Network at our new P.O. Box, 1750 Johnstown.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Peters. Negotiations are underway again between Iran and 6 world powers. Kyle McKinnon has more.
Experts from Iran and from the European Union are fronting the resumed talks in the early going of this round, but the group of 6 that includes the United States may already be seeing tougher sledding ahead. In Tehran, Iran's supreme leader vowed the country will resist coercion and excessive demands from America. He will not allow, he says, international inspection of Iran's military sites under any nuclear agreement. A U.S. State Department fact sheet says, according to a framework agreement, that Iran would be required to grant the UN nuclear agency access to any suspicious sites. I'm Kyle McKinnon.
A teacher in Romney, West Virginia is in trouble for showing the erotic movie 50 Shades of Grey to her students.
Hampshire high school teacher Christy Long says she didn't know what the movie was about when the kids in her health occupations class asked her if they could watch it as a reward for good work done. So when one of the students brought the DVD to school last week, they started showing it. It'd been playing for about 10 minutes when an assistant principal was alerted by another adult and shut down the movie. Teacher Long has now been suspended without pay after a unanimous vote by the school board. I'm Rita Foley.
The Netherlands is not prosecuting a man who helped his elderly mother kill herself. Charlie Butts reports that's not a surprise.
Euthanasia-assisted suicide were officially legalized in 2002, but it had been practiced on a regular basis before that. Alex Schettenberg of the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition and chair of international groups dealing with assisted suicide tells AFN that legitimized what has become a slippery slope.
What happens is that when you legalize killing, what it means is now it's okay to actually have somebody else cause your death. by law. So all we're now doing is debating the rules around it.
So what the Netherlands government is saying now is that because Albert Heringa felt it was his unwritten moral duty to kill his mother, even though it was illegal, the appeals court won't allow prosecution because although Heringa broke the rules, he was just doing the same thing a doctor would do.
You have to maintain protections